The roar of the engines vibrated through my body, drowning out the thunderous beat of my heart. The kaleidoscope of lights from the control panel flickered and blurred in front of my vision. I couldn't let myself think about what was happening beyond the cockpit of the Juncture. I had entered a death spiral, and failure was not an option. I yanked on the yoke, muscles straining against the artificial gravity, and flipped a switch I hoped still worked. Come on, come on. I hissed, clearly far too agitated for the ship's AI to understand. The finger of the storm ahead, a swirling vortex of neon purple and sickening green, reached to swallow me whole. Pilot status, imminent crash. Evasive maneuver recommended, said Aldea with her calm, smooth voice. Great advice, Aldea. I snapped, my fingers brushing instinctively over the emergency thrusters while sweat trickled down my neck. It is not like I can avoid that energy storm, right? I jerked the yoke hard to starboard, feeling the ship lurch beneath me. On the viewscreen, the storm's eye twisted menacingly, lighting up the cockpit with violent flashes of electricity. The storm contained elements I was deeply familiar with, having spent too many comfortable nights in the exploration labs analyzing hostile atmospheres. This particular energy signature was one I had prayed never to encounter again. I could practically hear my mentor's voice ringing in my ears like a sin I hadn't atoned for. We cannot venture into the storms that haunt the ruins, Eris. You must remember, our people have been shattered too many times in our history. Learn restraint. I had learned restraint, but it was when my very existence depended on the calloused fingers of fate that my will to survive sharpened into a scalpel. The Juncture screeched as a bolt of energy zapped across the bow, jolting me into another involuntary scream. I slammed my palm against the console, drowning out the echoes of Professor Yalma's warnings. I couldn't let my thoughts spiral into self. Doubt right now, panic was a luxury I could not afford. As disorienting as it was, I had little time for the storm. The real threat was dwelling deep inside the ship. The bounty hunters who had been on my tail for what felt like a lifetime. Earlier today, I had made a choice that altered my life's trajectory irrevocably. I surrendered the data crystal that housed the only protocol to access the ancient systems hidden beneath Midrith Roman 4. It was a betrayal, and they would see it as treason for putting myself first, once again, rather than the future of the society I had sworn to protect. Warning, energy vortex imminent. Aldea intoned with an unsettling calm that felt like a final mockery. 40 seconds until impact. Great, I roared, slamming my fist against the armrest. Then what do? I cannot make the jump with them tracking me. They'll follow me into the core. Aldea remained silent, which was less than reassuring. I was an engineer stuck in a fight for survival, and here I was, helplessly flying into the jaws of the storm, an omen of the chaos the galaxy had become. The hunters were relentless. They would undoubtedly find me again once I lost my edge. I stole a glance down at the navigation chart on my side display. The only safe haven I could think of was the neutral sector, a swirling chaos of half-lapsed wormholes hiding any number of horrors. Eject, shouted a rogue thought I remembered too well. It was all the old crew said they could ever do in situations like these, and it flashed through my mind without consideration. I sent up a silent thanks to Engineer Cree when the words of my youth rang in my ears. Those times in the thruster bay, aligning the warp coils, listening to their tales of daring escapes and reckless ventures. It was all risky business, and I had spent far too long living safely on the fringes. Deep breath, Eris. My fingers moved deftly over the buttons, one flush of adrenaline after the other, as I scrambled for the escape sequence. I was a bounty hunter's target, but I had to handle this, like I had done one too many times before. The button was switching into a green hue, light illuminating the cockpit with hopes I once dismissed as impossible. The wave of fear was nothing compared to what I had endured when we delved into the very darkness lurking beneath the surface of our world, beneath the scars of wars long forgotten. Then I hesitated. I couldn't leave Aldea, my only ally, behind. Pilot, we have to initiate, she began, but I cut her off. Can you at least stay with me on the escape pod? I asked, a pang of hope cutting through my rising panic. I hate the idea of losing everything we've worked for. Protocol requires a forget protocol. It was then I made my choice. I pressed the final button, touching the core of every regret I possessed, and blasted away from the juncture. No sooner had I entered the void of the escape pod than the tension left my body, yet my heart raced with uncertainty. Oh, what had I done? I had consigned myself to a life forever living with the words of a self-sacrificing idealist echoing in the corners of my mind. Maybe I was as foolish as they said. Maybe I wasn't the worst species in the galaxy. As the pod jolted through the storm, I steadied my breath. No longer the prototypes of scientists inhaling the good life. The galaxy was aligning itself just beyond the rift. As the gravitational pull from the storm surged toward the escape pod, I braced myself for a truth I might never be ready for. Perhaps in searching for answers, I had awakened a fate far worse than anything I'd ever encountered. A flickering symbol on the display informed me that I was on a crash course for the shores of Midrith Roman. 4. With its hauntingly beautiful landscapes and irony in itself, depending on how one viewed beauty in a dying world overrun by fears and strange species. I had escaped the worst only to crash into the depths of the unknown, and I dared not think of the hunters who would continue to pursue me. But perhaps there was more within, waiting beneath the surface. An answer, a reckoning, or the greatest betrayal of all yet to come. The world out there was dangerous, but I couldn't help but wonder, had I truly dodged the actual storm, or was I merely at the mercy of a far more fetching fate waiting to bring me to my knees? The pod shuddered violently as it impacted the surface of Midrith Roman. 4. The jarring force rattling my bones yet somehow miraculously intact. My heart raced as the blaring alarms subsided, and a heavy silence enveloped me. I rubbed my shoulders gingerly, wincing at the bruises forming beneath my jumpsuit. It took a moment to collect my thoughts, the remnants of the storm swirling in my mind like phantom echoes. I toggled the emergency hatch open, feeling the cool air rush in, cutting through the tension that had built up inside the small capsule. Stepping out into the lush landscape before me was surreal. The vibrant flora glistened in the hazy light of the encroaching dusk, an eerie contrast to the chaos that clung to me. This landscape is beautiful but hazardous, Aldea stated, the AI now embedded within the escape pod. The thermal fluctuations and bioengineering signals underneath the soil indicate unstable energy fluctuations. Proceed with caution. Great, I muttered. I had barely escaped one storm, only to land in a world full of unknowns. I'll add that to the list of things to worry about. As I set foot on the uneven terrain, the ground pulsed disturbingly beneath me, reacting to my presence as if the earth itself was alive. The horizon loomed ahead, thick with bioluminescent vegetation that cast shades of blue and purple across the landscape. It felt like an alien world trapped in a perpetual twilight, both stunning and unsettling. I took a moment to gather myself. My head spun with thoughts swirling over the betrayal of the day to Crystal, my mentor's warnings echoing like a broken record. But now I had little choice but to forge ahead. With Aldea's soft voice guiding me, I activated the small survival beacon linked to the ship's network. Increased scans are now enabled, she informed me. A team will locate your pod soon. Please engage visual sensors for those biopatterns. Who? I asked, frowning at the clouds boiling in the distance. The Alloy Collective. They operate in this quadrant and can be unpredictable. I cursed under my breath. A bounty on my head, and now a rendezvous with a dubious faction. This day just kept getting better. Notify me before you send out any signals. I need an ally, not an enemy. Understood. Scanning for life forms. I cautiously picked my way toward a nearby grove of shimmering trees that towered high above, their trunks twisting in angles that defied logic. Each step felt precarious, as if the ground could collapse under my feet. Yet every now and then, I caught glimpses of vibrant creatures flitting among the branches' alien intricacies that seeped past the surface. What kind of world had I crashed into? Suddenly, I stumbled upon a clearing filled with encampments, their inhabitants bustling around in motion. A stark contrast to the isolation I had felt moments ago. I paused, peering at the haphazard structures made from a mix of twisted metal and organic material, creating a surreal architecture that sang of resilience and innovation. "That's them," I mumbled, pointing toward a group of figures clad in ragged uniforms adorned with metallic trinkets. "The Alloy Collective. This was their territory. Prepare for interaction," Aldea warned. "They might see you as a threat or an opportunity." I pushed that gut instinct down as I approached. I felt alive with anxiety, pulse quickening, a wary feeling settling in my bones like static electricity before a storm. As I stepped into their midst, their glances met mine, curious yet predatory. "Be ready to conceal your identity," Aldea cautioned. "Thanks for that, Aldea," I muttered, trying to keep my voice steady amidst the growing chorus of voices. A wiry figure with striking blue tattoos approached me, holding metal shards that shimmered strangely in the twilight. "Traveler," the woman called, her voice laced with intrigue. "What brings you to our sanctuary?" "I'm just looking for a way to regroup," I stammered. "I'm not here to cause trouble." "Trouble finds us whether we seek it or not," she replied cryptically, her sharp eyes scrutinizing me. "Come from the storm, do you? Perhaps you brought it with you." "Quite the poet," I replied, trying to match her cryptic tone while maintaining nonchalance. "I just need to lay low for a while. I may have information worth trading." My heart raced, hoping that whatever I had, tangential knowledge of the ancient energy systems, might be considered valuable. The woman chuckled softly, stepping closer. "Yeah, a traitor then. Guardians of energy and prophecy are not easily appeased. Those who wield information become a target," she remarked. "Are you ready to pay the cost?" I swallowed hard, nerves sparking like the storm I had just escaped. "And what's the cost?" In that moment, before the weight of her words could settle, the ground beneath us trembled. Yells erupted from the camp as shadows coalesced in the periphery. Something dark swept through the trees, flickering and shifting in the dim light. An electric pulse permeated the atmosphere, sending tremors through the air, a warning like the curtain before a grand reveal. The members of the Alloy Collective hastily stepped into formation, and I felt the grip of fear tighten around my throat. "Stay close," the woman ordered, "and ready your feet. We don't know what we're facing." As I fell in line behind her, adrenaline coursed with every heartbeat, my pulse resonating with the violent thumps of the approaching chaos. We huddled against the onrushing dark, recognizing that the shadow hunters, the ones who pursued me, had followed, lingering just outside the periphery of our sanctuary. "Can you sense them?" I whispered through clenched teeth, struggling to maintain my composure. The Blute, a tattooed woman, nodded, her demeanor shifting into fierce determination. "This land has its defenses. If we can channel it, we might just outmaneuver them." As a wave of electricity crackled in the distance, I steeled myself. The ground thrummed in response to the oncoming threat, grounding the fear surging within me. "What do we need to do?" "The guardians of Midrith-Roman, 4 must awaken," she said. It felt like the beginning of a necessary ritual, an offering of our presence, meant to summon the depths of life force concealed beneath us. "You pilot. Show us the storms you've weathered." Taking in a steady breath, I sought the fire rattling deep within me. "Aldea, can you connect with the land?" "Affirmative." And just like that, we formed a chain, an unsteady alliance between the living and the dormant, seeking to awaken the guardians hidden within the soil, pulsing with forgotten energies. I raised my hand, the shock of power coursing through me as I touched the earth, reaching deep into its core. The shadows twisted and turned, weaving their way toward us, hunting and stalking. I could hear the others beside me sharing hushed murmurs, footsteps steadily marking time against the earth, energies threading together like an intricate dance. "Channel the pulse," I encouraged, feeling the ground tense with anticipation, the heartbeat of the land echoing the urgency within us. The vibrations grew louder, waves crashing against the darkness, fluxing life into raw energy. A magical power threading itself through the roots of this world. As the shadows approached, intertwining with the tension in the air, I called out, "Let us awaken you." And then, as the rift of energy surged with a thundering pulse, the ground began to tremble more violently, beckoning its defenders awake. The shadows recoiled, stretching in multiple directions, and suddenly from the depths, the guardians were revealed figures of mist and light that emerged from the very fabric of Midrith Roman 4 essence. The clash was imminent, and the shadows pulled back, startled and perplexed. The guardians cascaded into existence, emanating an aura that burned vibrantly beneath the haunting twilight, almost as if this displacement knew just how profound our struggle had become. "Stay focused," the Blute, a hued woman shouted, gathering the collective around her. I planted my feet firmly into the ground, arms extended as the tendrils of energy flowed around us. We were all connected. The fate of collective resilience thrummed in the air. The guardians were awakening alongside us, and we were going to fight back. Amidst the swirling energies and the encroaching shadows, a wave of resolve surged through me as I prepared to reclaim the darkness that chased me. The storm was far from over. In the heart of Midrith Roman 4, I had found my moment, and I intended to harness it. Allies, enemies, and the guardians could become anything. The true nature of the conflict at hand remained an enigma. This was just the beginning. The question now was simple. Could we endure, or was chaos destined to reclaim us? The crack of thunder reverberated through the air, a jolting reminder that we walked in the shadows cast by forces greater than ourselves. The guardians swirled around me, their forms abstract and ethereal, blurring the lines between existence and oblivion. As they emerged, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, igniting an inexplicable connection with the land beneath my feet. The shadows hesitated but pulsed ominously, testing our assembly's resolve. Eris, the Blute, a hued woman, shouted over the chaos, her voice snapping through the air like a whip. "Channel your essence. Draw upon that energy. It's the only way to hold them back." I nodded, heart hammering against my chest as I concentrated. The guardians flickered like the auroras back on Gaia 9, their forms comprising swirling colors that danced to the rhythm of celestial energy. As my hand pressed deeper into the soil, I sought to anchor myself, rooting my spirit within the ancient foundations of Midrith Roman 4. I channeled my fears, my anger, and all the weight of regret I carried trance, forming them into lines of energy that wove between me and the guardians. With every tremor of the ground, shadows morphed, coalescing just beyond the shield we began to create. A hulking figure emerged from the dark, undulating as if the very air shifted around it. The Shadow Hunter, clad in obsidian armor, unleashed a guttural growl. "If foolish children, the guardians are merely echoes of a time long past," it bellowed, a voice that reverberated through the very essence of the earth. "You cannot hold back the tide of history. You are merely fueling my rebirth, and not if we have a say," I shouted back, dipping deeper into the pulse of the land. "You don't understand Midrith Roman 4 like we do." The guardians twisted, harmonizing with our collective scream for persistence, electrifying the air around me and pushing against the encroaching shadows. "We will forge our own destiny regardless of the past." Another surge of energy erupted from my being, cascading like waves through the guardians. With clarity, I felt them synchronize with me. An explosive power ignited among us, a symphony building toward a crescendo. "Fight with us," I implored, my voice rising alongside the exhilarating tumult that surrounded us. The shadows recoiled momentarily, sensing something beyond their comprehension. It was both empowering and terrifying. "A brave one, you are mistaken," the Shadow Hunter hissed, venom dribbling from its maw. "Your devotion enslaves you to a cycle of suffering. The guardians never belonged to you. That's where you're wrong," I shouted defiantly. "They've been waiting to be rekindled, awakened by those willing to fight. We are not bound by your history anymore." With a final, earth-shaking pulse, we intertwined energies were set free. The grounded roots of Midrith Roman 4 answered our call, rising in a swirling vortex of luminescent flora and the howling winds of ancient spirits. The echoes of history intertwined with our voices, transforming raw emotion into potent force. The guardians exploded into prismatic streams, rushing toward the hunter. The collision was thunderous, vibrant shades colliding with pools of darkness, sparks erupting like fireworks against a night sky. The shadow hunter writhed, struggling against the onslaught, but around it, its companions faltered. "Sever your ties," it roared, desperation clawing at its voice. It extended an arm, drawing forth a void from the shadows, dark tendrils that wormed toward me and the others, attempting to siphon the energy we had conjured. "Hold together," I cried, feeling the energy begin to wane, threatened by the encroaching darkness. "We have to," but before I could finish, a piercing scream ripped through the clearing. A figure appeared, silhouetted against the chaos. A member from the Alloy Collective, a young man. I recognized him immediately, Lorden. He faltered, caught between the push and pull of existence, and the shadows crept closer, as if sensing the fright tightening his frame. "No," I shouted, fear clawing at my chest as I moved to shield him. The shadows were directly behind, undeterred, and Lorden stumbled forward just as a shadowy tendril lashed out, wrapping around his leg, dragging him into the void. "Eris, help!" he cried, panic surging through his voice. A spark ignited within me. Before I could think, before I could hesitate, my instincts kicked in. Pull upon their essence. The blue-hat, Jude woman shouted beside me, her features aligning into a fierce determination. "No," I yelled back. "I can't risk losing anyone else, not again." But the shadows had discovered a chink in our defenses, and fear began to fester. I refused to witness another loss, to bury another ally beneath the weight of my mistakes. Trust the Guardians, even in desperation. The woman pressed, her voice steadfast. With no time for second guessing, I reached toward the ground, pleading with the earth to respond, to awaken its dormant guardianship once more. I summoned my courage, channeling it toward Lorden, weaving strands of emotions into the air. "Lorden, fight, help me to call upon the land, reach out and hold on." I could feel the ground vibrating beneath us, shifting, begging to lend its strength. And I felt Lorden's soul reach toward me, igniting sparks of connection that bonded across the shimmering divide. The darkness hissed in frustration as I summoned the energy, the tendrils loosening their grip ever so slightly. The Guardians responded. They surged forward, bright droplets of color sparkling, converging as one against the tendrils. Lorden's cries filled the air, a blend of fear and determination, a warrior's struggle to stay alive. Just as he went to slip further away, I reached out with an energy I didn't know existed in me, praying for him to feel its pulse. "I'm here," I shouted to him above the roar of the battle. "Don't let go," we connected. I felt his heartbeat, a resonance echoing through layers of warmth and despair. And in that moment, the Guardians not only responded, they flourished with vibrancy. With one final, raw scream, I poured everything I had into him, everything I wished I could have said. All the hopes I buried with every loss. His spirit infused into the energies, igniting power we never knew existed among us. The shadows bucked back, shrieking in outrage. As I pulled, Lorden broke free from the darkness, collapsing into a heap beside me, gasping for breath. Fury ignited as the shadows roiled, unsure how to combat the reawakening energies. "We are not powerless," I shouted, raising my hands once more with Lorden beside me, now recovering and regaining composure, canceling the ebbing power of doubt as we channeled further into the realm. The once vibrant aura around me intensified, almost blinding as streams of energy lashed out against the shadows, forcing them to recoil and stumble back into the depths. The Guardians danced alongside us, weaving vibrant strands of color that warred against the encroaching darkness. The Shadow Hunter roared in fury, struggling against the onslaught. Its form was beginning to crack beneath the luminescent rage of our spirit and the ancient magic demanding to be released. We couldn't let fear cling. We had to fight until none remained. I called out, facing the pulsating counteraction in the air. "Oldaya, redirect focus toward the source." Affirmative. She responded efficiently. I felt the air crackle with purpose. the energies within us shifting and churning with newfound intensity. We were a coalition, a binding pulse reaching out throughout the land where the shadows once reigned. With a communal effort, we pushed forward. We called upon the essence of the earth, the spirit thriving in wonder and decay, the promise of rebirth and the eternal cycle of existence. I could see it, feel it, the interconnectedness woven in our essence. In one final act of unity, as a rippling shock coursed through us, I beckoned forth the guardians and called back the strings of time. You fight with us, guardians of Midrith, coalesce for our future. With that, an unyielding wave of color clashed against the shadows, tearing through their forms and collapsing everything they were. A storm of raw energy exploded as warriors of ancient essence met faceless darkness. The shadows that threatened everything we loved ignited like paper against flame, whirling, twisting, and dissipating into the air. The shadow hunter hissed, rage morphing into panic. You cannot, but it was too late. The pulse surged through every vein, finally solidifying into the form of energy and light that twisted and enveloped the shadows, swallowing them into oblivion. With a deafening explosion, the energies flooded the environment, illuminating the grove with kaleidoscopic brilliance. The hunter trembled, its form contorting, drowning in the rush of its impending doom. The light consumed it, banishing traces of darkness that had clouded the land for far too long. And then silence. A haunting stillness hung in the air, broken only by the quiet rustle of leaves whispering, alive again. As the colors retreated, revealing a tranquil clearing where we once stood, I took a deep breath, feeling exhaustion wash over me. Lorden pulled himself up beside me, breathless. The blue-hued woman, the fierce leader of the Alloy Collective, grinned widely, disbelief etched into her expression. Amazing, I felt it. The guardians awakened once more. She grasped my arm, excitement bubbling over. We did it. But as I surveyed the clearing, the weight of exhilaration lingered just beneath the surface. Something hung unfinished in the depths of my core. What happens now? I murmured, uncertainty slithering through my mind. The energy of Midrith Roman hummed to life around us, vibrant roots weaving once more beneath our feet. Much depends on how we choose to respond, the woman replied, the gravity of her words echoing in the soft night air. I turned to Lorden, frowning as I watched the unmistakable lines of doubt etch themselves onto his face. Echoing concerns I, too, felt grappling inside me. The bounty hunters won't stop, he warned. They'll adapt, they'll regroup. We may have survived today, but tomorrow will require strength just the same. I joined, realizing the truth carving itself into my reality. The conflict was far from over, and we were tangled in a web that stretched far beyond us. The now familiar tremor of honor gripped my chest, a reminder of the quality lost in our struggle, of the alliances we must forge. I turned back to face the glowing figures of guardians, their forms representing centuries of perseverance. As we stood amongst the underbrush of ancient woodlands, I felt the heartbeat of a homecoming storm brewing on the horizon. Then we will prepare, I declared with newfound determination. We're not alone in this fight. The guardians of Midrith will not be forgotten again. Together, the blue-hued woman proclaimed, strength radiating from her existence, captivating our allies. As one, with a renewed sense of purpose, I felt the energy focus around us, a ready flame preparing to ignite the future. I glanced at my companions, at Lorden and the woman who stood beside me. Let's uncover the truth, learn the mysteries that bind our futures, and confront the shadows rising once more. And thus, the battle transformed, shaping our path forward as we embraced the resolve at the heart of Midrith Roman. For we would not merely survive, we would rise unmasking the echoes of the past while illuminating the possibilities that lay just beyond the reaches of fate. Together, we would embrace our destiny, armed against the storms to come. The air crackled with anticipation, charged with the remnants of the battle that had unfolded beneath the shadowed canopy of Midrith Roman. The barren clearing, once tinged with foreboding darkness, now throbbed with new life, the vibrancy of energy mingling with the scent of rich, loamy earth. Together, as a coalition created from the remnants of ancient echoes and newfound allies. We stood at the precipice of something more, something daunting yet exhilarating. As Lorden, the Blue-Tattooed Woman, and I gathered our thoughts amidst the shimmering shadows of the Guardians, a realization settled within me. This wasn't just about survival anymore. With every pulse of energy swirling around us, I could feel a tide of momentum shifting, a promise of unity forged through fire and strife. "Gather the troops," I said, conviction steering my voice. "We need to strategize. The bounty hunters won't sit idly by after what's just transpired here." Lorden nodded, the spark of determination igniting behind his eyes. He began to weave through the campsite, rallying those who had fought with us, surrounding the shared fire that crackled faintly, a bastion against the encroaching darkness that still whispered in the distance. I turned to the Blue-Tattooed Woman who had yet to introduce herself. "What is your name?" I asked, urgency pressing my voice. "Jara," she replied, her eyes glowing with purpose. "I'm a member of the Alloy Collective, one who has experienced far too much loss at the hands of those shadows." I could hear the weight of her sorrow underneath her stoic mask, the resilience born from pain that shaped her spirit like the tattoos adorning her skin. But today, we've changed the tide. Today, we have allies. The flames flickered as the assembled group of Alloy members approached, gathering around in a loose circle, faces illuminated by a flickering dance of light and shadow. Each member wore expressions of cautious relief, yet resolve shone like embers in their eyes. We had turned the tide momentarily, but the darkness that hung in the air felt thicker than the last, foreshadowing that this moment was merely one of many yet to come. "Listen up," Lorden called, his voice cutting through the surrounding chatter, silencing the din. "We've just gone up against a formidable enemy, but we must prepare for more. The bounty hunters will adapt. They know we're here, and we have something they desire, the energy of Midrith Roman 4. There were murmurs of affirmation among the gathered collective, and I interjected, seeking clarity amid our shared determination. "We must create a plan to divert their attention. Relocate the energy we've awakened so they cannot track its source." Jara nodded, stepping closer. "Yes, but we also need to guard this site. The Guardians here may protect this realm, but the ancient energy is too vital. We can harness it, but only if we synchronize our movements under its guidance." "How do we do that?" A voice broke through the tension. A younger member of the Alloy, bright-eyed with a determined gleam. "How do we harness something so ancient?" With a deep breath, I felt the sensation wash over me once more. The pulse of the land revealing itself around us. We have to listen. We must reconnect with the Guardians and learn the depths of their whispers. With their guidance, we can protect ourselves and this sanctuary. Lorden spoke to the group, summarizing our fight against the darkness. Knowing our enemy is essential, so we must divide ourselves into scouts and defenders. "I will lead the scouts. Eris and Jara, can you form a protective perimeter for the energy sources?" "Absolutely," Jara replied fiercely, "and we should call on the Guardians to guide us, a retempering of shared energies that will strengthen our defenses." As the members of the collective dispersed to finalize their duties, I caught Lorden's gaze across the camp. "Dividing ourselves like this. Are we sure it's wise?" "There's no time to hesitate," he replied, his brow creasing. "We need to understand this synergy we've awakened. Every moment counts." I felt the weight of the urgency settle around us, palpable in the air. "All right then," I relented, taking a deep breath. "Let's make it count. Jara, I think we should call upon the Guardians right now. Strengthen our ties and defenses. We can work as one." "As one," Jara echoed, rallying the others, and my heart surged with hope. An inkling of the uncertain, driven future we were crafting together. Side by side, we stood at the center of the clearing, each uniting in purpose. I felt the pulse of the air beckoning us as I closed my eyes, reaching down into the roots of ancient energy. I focused intently, projecting my thoughts outward toward the Echo Guardians, feeling their spirit sway with our own energies. "Guardians of Midrith Roman 4, hear us," I called out, my voice intertwining with the collective's harmonizing energy. "We stand as one in our call. Guide us. Help us protect this sanctuary. Throughout the camp, whispers of affirmation accompanied the growing energy. I sensed the guardians fluctuating in response, readying themselves to lend their power. As the land trembled beneath us, a low murmur resounded, a ripple flowing through every participant. The guardians emerged once again, the vibrant tendrils of light illuminating our makeshift perimeter as the essence of Midrith Roman. 4 thrummed like heartbeats beneath our feet. Together, we have been forgotten, I proclaimed, lifting my voice against the rising winds, illuminating the crisp air. But today, that changes. We will revitalize our bonds, defend ourselves as guardians of this land. The energy pulsed forward, the air around us vibrating with a force that felt almost human. We forged connections, intertwining with the threads of energies weaving themselves around our fingers, a stability forming within our collective restraint. As night embraced the horizon, I watched as bright orbs floated before us, the ethereal guardians manifesting through the darkness, shimmering with forgotten history. They danced, casting luminous patterns that glimmered against the night, the resonance of their being illuminating the space around us. Shadows seek to extinguish, Jara murmured, steadying her form. We must not waver. And one by one, we each pledged our resolve, the essence rippling beneath us, fortifying against inevitable forces of chaos. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed from the edge of the grove, a sign of the encroaching shadows creeping toward us again. They are here, Lorden called, peering into the darkening expanse. Tension mounted as shadows contorted, twisting into forms we'd all come to recognize. Guardians, lend us your strength. Jara summoned fiercely yet calmly, our energies weaving together in preparation, as the shadows moved mercilessly toward the perimeter. As the darkness approached, I felt courage rising between me and the assembled collective. Adrenaline coursed through our veins like pure force, ready to intertwine with the power that awaited. Ready yourselves, I shouted, feeling the guardians pulsate along with our heartbeats, vibrating through the clearing in a way that suggested something far greater was at stake. With one final breath, shadows surged forward, pouring across the boundary like a thick fog. But we stood united, harnessed with the guardians' energy folding around us, a barrier against impending chaos. True strength was not in numbers, it was in the bonds we forged. The shared purpose magnified, illuminating our intent to reclaim the essence of life itself. As the shadows collided with our defenses, all at once, we unleashed a united scream. A pulse of light raged, sending the energies tumbling through the void. The encroaching shadows grew resistant but flared against the might of our intention, the fierce resolve shaping the world around us. And in those critical moments, something shifted. The pulse crescendoed into harmony, igniting the night with fierce brilliance. The Guardians whirled, their power weaving a tapestry of light, ensuring that darkness would fade from our memories and histories intertwined. Resilience burned between us, fueled by love and loss. We were guardians, awakened from slumber to dwell within the current of our desires, a recognition of life crafted anew, inviting possibilities that lay beyond the storms of fate. With the shadows on our heels, we rallied against the tempest, our hearts igniting, no longer just fighters but custodians of a brighter tomorrow, ready to reclaim the world and shield it against oblivion. Here we stood, amidst the daunting shadows driven by our purpose, fearless in our quest to rewrite the destiny carved by chaos. The throes of battle would soon return, but we would shape that legacy as guardians, prepared to clash against the darkened tide of history once and for all. And as the Guardian's light pulsed beneath us, I knew today would not be our last stand. This was just the beginning of a war reclaimed. The air crackled with a tension that hung like the humid stillness before a thunderstorm. As shadows surged toward our makeshift camp, the rustling of leaves underfoot reverberated with every heartbeat. All nature seemed aware of the impending clash. We had formed a makeshift perimeter, standing shoulder to shoulder, emboldened by our newfound allies, the ethereal guardians of Midrith Roman, 4 swirling around us. Their radiant presence embraced us, offering strength that gave wings to our resolve. Prepare yourselves, I shouted, adrenaline surging through me as darkness poured forth, outlined by the shifting shapes of the shadow hunters emerging from the trees. My mind raced, plotting the chain of events leading to this very moment, the betrayal, the flight, every tangled thread that woven this tapestry of chaos. Remember our purpose. We fight to protect each other, our bond, and this sacred land. Lorden was by my side, readying himself with sharpened blades that flickered with captured energy. Beside him, Jara and other members of the Alloy Collective braced themselves, eyes glinting with fierce determination, as the Guardians enshrined us with their light. "Hold the line," Lorden yelled, his voice a rallying cry that sent ripples of motivation through our ranks. The encroaching shadows hesitated, as if testing our collective resolve. Each pulse of energy emitting from the Guardians served as an anchor, the very air vibrating with anticipation. The largest shadow hunter stepped forward, its figure daunting and elongated, merged with darkness yet pulsating with raw power gathered from despair. "We return to reclaim what you've stolen," it growled, its voice a cacophony of dread and fury that sent a chill coursing through my veins. "You meddle in forces far greater than your understanding." With a steadying breath, I straightened, calling upon the Guardian's energy that flowed into every fiber of existence around us. "You mistake our resolve for naivety. We will not yield. This land will no longer be a pawn for your wicked purposes." The air around us shimmered, and with that, shadows charged forward with a devastating force, overwhelming us like a rogue wave crashing into a fragile shoreline. In unison, we braced our feet into the earth, summoning protective barriers crafted from glowing strands of energy, weaving together strands of our collective essence. "Guardians, lend us your might," we cried, a chorus rising amidst the chaos. Light erupted in a brilliant blaze as the shadows collided with our defenses. I could feel it, the Guardians pulsed along with us, each surge of light rippling down to the roots of Midrith Roman, channeling into every crevice of the landscape and igniting the fury of all that grew beneath. It pushed back, I commanded, and we held firm, radiating our power against the darkness, the very fabric of history unfolding in our hands. The shadows wailed in defiance, struggling against our collective determination. But with each ounce of energy we expended, more echoed around us, igniting a force that resonated with nature itself. Branches snapped overhead, and they could see the brilliance surge, reflecting across the myriad hues of our surroundings, highlighting the divide between unity and desolation. As the battle raged on, the ground trembled. A tremor carried from beneath our very feet. The Guardians, intertwining with our energy, began to swirl at the edges of the battlefield. They streaked like comets, coiling through the air, illuminating the darkness with serene brilliance. The shadows swiped back, aware of their fading chance against our shared power. Then, with a powerful crescendo, the earth beneath us ruptured, a wave of energy emanating from Midrith Roman for itself, aligning with our conscious effort. The ground beneath the encroaching shadows erupted. "We awaken you. The Guardians must rise again," I roared, directing the pulse ripe with hope and memories from ages past. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, an anguished howl escaping their grasp. The air thickened with energy, swirling around us, electrifying our senses with every heartbeat thudding in synchronization. It felt like an explosion against the fabric of existence, the ancient voices of Midrith Roman, singing in unison with ours. In that moment, the distinction between myself and the collective began to fade. The shadows shrieked in panic as they realized the depth of the awakening we had summoned. Fragments of their forms splintered like glass, scattering as the Guardians lanced through the vortex effortlessly. Together, as one, we howled, rushing forward. The shadows dissipated under a deluge of light and purpose, struggling to maintain their forms against an ever-intensifying tide. Unyielding, Lorden shouted, striking down a looming dark figure as our combined strength commanded the essence around us. And with that, the tide shifted. The shadows began to falter, losing their cohesion amidst our relentless barrage of energy that spiraled forth from every heart. I could see it through the flurry burgeoning cracks in their forms, and each one felt like a ripple of redemption that surged through our purpose. "Finish this," Jara yelled, empowering the aura of the Guardians, hovering protectively around us. For every lost soul, for every fallen warrior. With a final, echoed shout, we surged as one. The brilliant energy exploded outward, cascading like a nova. Light burst from every connection tethered to our essence, binding our will to the cries of Midrith Roman for itself, emerging with the tension of despair wrapped in the love we birthed into existence. The shadows shrieked one last time, a desperate response to their inevitable obliteration, and then they imploded into the very essence they drew upon, the landscape absorbing away their remnants, leaving no trace behind. And suddenly there was silence. The battlefield shimmered, the luminous guardians swirling around us once more, illuminating the clearing where shadows once clouded our purpose. I could feel the pulse of Midrith Roman, thrumming beneath me, and I took a deep breath, balmy air perfumed with the memory of struggle and courage. We did it," Lordan whispered in disbelief, wiping sweat from his forehead, eyes wide in wonder. Jara stepped forward, the ethereal glow of the Guardians enveloping her like a second skin. The Guardians sung. "They awakened alongside us, and today we have thwarted the darkness," she said, glancing at each face around her, a brilliant smile lighting her expression. "But there is much work to do. Those who covet this land will not rest," I cautioned, the weight of our victory tempered with the knowledge of the ensuing battles yet to unfold. "We must strengthen our alliances. This was only one fight against an unyielding tide. In time, we will learn their secrets," Lordan assured, his gaze strong as he surveyed the landscape now restored with each death of despair echoing through the roots rekindled. "Midrith Roman, 4 is full of mysteries. We only need the patience to breathe through it all." As we gathered around the remnants of our camp, I felt the presence of the Guardians ebbing back, the threads of energy coiling beneath the soil and beckoning us to listen. I could almost see time weaving into the distance, stories of triumph and trials lingering to share. They were the memories, the resilience ingrained upon the land itself. As night fell gently over Midrith Roman, 4, we forged new plans amidst the embers of celebration and emerging purpose. For every victory we had tasted today came laced with the understanding that the struggles ahead would be great. Together, we would not only fight, we would thrive under the shade of Guardians awakened anew. The road ahead was still cloaked in uncertainty, but the shadows were no longer ours to fear. We had become the warriors of Midrith Roman 4, emerging into the dawn of a new era, every heartbeat resonating with hope, defiance, and a promise to protect the light, no matter the encroaching darkness that lingered beyond the horizon. And I felt it deep within my bones, the winds of an unfathomable future were gathering strength, resonating with the shared spirits of friends and generations past, whispering through the night that the fight would continue, and this was merely the beginning. Darkness hung over the horizon like an ominous shroud, the air thick with anticipation. The energies of Midrith Roman 4 pulsed softly beneath our feet, a reminder of the battle fought and the alliances forged. We had momentarily held back the shadows, but I could feel the undertow of uncertainty swirling around us. The darkness would regroup, and the battle was far from over. With the horizon painted in hues of indigo and deep orange, I gathered the leaders of the Alloy Collective and my newfound warriors around the flickering light of the campfire. We sat in a circle, gazing at one another with equal parts resolve and trepidation. The night air crackled with unspoken challenges. While we may have sent them retreating for now, I began, the warmth of the fire dancing in my eyes. We cannot underestimate the shadow hunters. They know the value of the energy we've awakened. They will come at us harder and faster next time. We need a plan. Lordan shifted beside me, his brow furrowed with thought. We should scout the perimeter, establish more lookout points. If we know where their forces are gathering, we can prepare our defenses. Jara nodded in agreement, her blue tattoos shimmering in the firelight. And we need to ensure the Guardians remain in sync with our energy patterns. Their strengths lie both in their presence and their connection to Midrith Roman. 4. If they grow weak or retreat, we'll be left vulnerable. Agreed, I replied, feeling the weight of our impending tasks settle on my shoulders. But we also need to gather more allies. The Alloy Collective isn't large enough to face a concerted attack from the Hunters. We must reach out to the surrounding settlements, find all those who have suffered under the Hunters' reign. With a flicker of determination lighting our faces, plans unfolded amid the campfire's warmth. Each member articulated their thoughts, balancing caution against the desire to forge ahead, embraces of ingenuity weaving through our shared tactics. Let's split into teams, Jara proposed, 2 groups to scout and gather information, and another to reinforce our defenses here. I will lead the group to the north. There are hidden paths we can utilize to access those settlements. Lorden, take a team to the east. There's a rumored faction of rebels I've heard whispers of, but they are wary of outsiders. Fine by me, Lorden replied with a hint of mischief flashing through his eyes. I'll charm them right into our fold. As the fire crackled and spattered embers into the night, I felt courage blooming amongst us like wildflowers pushing through rubble. The path to freedom felt intertwined with hope and choice. We were reclaiming our destiny. Before we departed into the night, I raised my hand, feeling the Guardian's energy weave around us as we prepared our spirits. Guardians of Midrith, guide us. We are but vessels fueled by our resolve. Together, we shall overcome the darkness lurking beside us, I declared, feeling the pulse of my words effuse through the night. With our path set before us, we all knew time was not on our side. We needed to move swiftly. The journey begins. The moon hung above us like a daunting eye as our groups separated to gather information. In the intrepid silence of the forest, I traversed alongside Jara. Our surroundings burgeoned with life. The trees swayed gently as if whispering secrets long lost to time. What do you think we will find at the settlements? I asked, breaking the hush enveloping our mission. Concern tightened the corners of my mind. Those who have suffered, Jara responded quietly, eyes focused ahead. Most will have lost someone to the Shadow Hunters. If we present the truth of our current situation, they may join our cause. Retrieving her gaze, I saw her determination mirrored in the surrounding flora. They won't trust us easily, I said cautiously, especially with so many past betrayals lingering like shadows. We've opened pathways for unity through our actions, she replied, her voice steady. We'll prove to them our intentions with the guardians that follow us. I nodded. Together, we strive to tap into the ancient magic that thrummed in the soil beneath our feet. Still, a shadow loomed in my mind. With every step we took toward the settlements, I felt the strength of our mission intensifying. After hours of navigating dense undergrowth and hidden trails, we finally reached the outskirts of an ancient settlement nestled beneath an imposing rock formation. The silhouettes of aged structures loomed against the sky, cloaked in mystery and time. Hold, Jara whispered, halting us in our tracks. We crouched low, watching the flickering torches that dotted the perimeter, the shadows of people moving about. Let's observe. As we watched, my heart quickened with empathy. The inhabitants appeared weary yet resilient, akin to ghosts of forgotten dreams. Their lives, marred by hardship, bore witness to the cost of survival. Jara and I exchanged glances, and I gave her a nod. Drawing upon the energy of our surroundings and channeling the wish to connect, I stepped forward, a conscious promise flowing from my intent. "Hail," I called out, my voice carrying through the night air, an echo of hope piercing the doubts hanging over us. The Guardians have returned. The shadows froze for a moment, a hushed concern sweeping through the people gathered by the torches, their faces etched in uncertainty. "You say the Guardians have returned." A grizzled figure stepped forward, cloaked in a tattered robe. "Who dares to invoke their name?" I met his gaze with unwavering resolve, stepping further into the light. "We are defenders of Midrith Roman 4, a coalition formed to embrace its spirit and protect its inhabitants. We've fought, and we've awakened the Guardians. Together, We wish to unite against the encroaching darkness. A murmur rippled through the crowd, uncertainty mixed with an ember of hope flickering against the shadows. What cause do you have to trust us? The figure scrutinized, brow furrowed in suspicion. Too many have come promising change yet brought despair. We do not offer empty promises, Jara interjected, her voice measured yet passionate. The shadow hunters threaten everything of value on this land. We have witnessed their horrors. We seek to unite all those who have suffered under their grip. At the mention of the hunters, a wave of recognition surged through the crowd, whispers igniting memories of loss. I could see the flickering torchlight illuminating the pained expressions of those who lingered on the precipice between fear and trust. You speak truth, the figure said, softening slightly, but we have lost faith in anyone who has come before. Staring into the depths of his eyes, I offered my hand, an invitation to take a leap of faith beyond the veil of darkness that suffocated us all. Then let us share our stories, the anger, the grief, the hope. We will show you that we stand not alone. Midrith Roman 4 spirit is rising, and the time for vengeance against the hunters is nigh. The tension in the air shifted, murmurs of agreement passed through erupting hopes. The guardians that trailed behind us pulsated gently, their essence drifting into the shadows, a guiding force illuminating the hidden hearts. Join us, Jara called out, stepping closer. Join us in rebuilding a community unbowed by fear, where healing could once again seed in the rich soil of Midrith. As the figure took a step back, his doubt lingered, but the eyes of those around him began to light up with their memories awakening. But tonight we share our tales, he declared, something in his voice shifting, and perhaps we ignite the flame of our future. Together we gathered, voices intertwining in the tapestry of anguish, remembrance, and communal ambition, a circle of shared purpose forming amid the echoes of life. The air buzzed with connection. A surge of strength to reclaim our histories hung like stars waiting to be born. The unveiling of allies meanwhile, a different kind of urgency unfolded under the watchful gaze of our gathered hopefuls. Lorden, accompanied by a group of Alloy members, had ventured toward the east in search of the elusive faction of rebels. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, Lorden and his team crept near the rumored concentration of the rebel faction, threading through the dense thicket towards stone ruins. A sense of apprehension clung to them, each step building deeper mistrust as they approached what could be either salvation or demise. The ruins resembled an ancient fortress, nature entwined through the cracks in the stone. Here, the whispers of forgotten battles could be felt among the wind rustling through overgrown foliage. You remember, Lorden instructed his crew, his breath steadying their resolve. We approach with caution. There is no telling how these rebels will react. They may see us as invaders. The group moved stealthily, hearts pounding as they spotted a clearing nestled among the ruins, adorned with dark, cloaked figures congregating around scattered fires. Shadows slithered like shades against the light, the air thick with tension. I'll handle the introductions, Lorden decided, striding boldly into the clearing, unwilling to relinquish fear as he bore the weight of leadership upon his shoulders. Greetings, he called out, his voice projecting confidence. Who trespasses? A gruff voice echoing through the shadows, eyes glaring out from beneath hoods that masked intentions and identities. I am Lorden, alongside the Alloy Collective. We seek allies to rise against the shadow hunters. Lorden's declaration pierced the air, demanding attention amidst apprehension, a rallying cry for those who shared a fractured past. A moment of silence stretched, the rebels sharing glances that spoke volumes. Lorden could feel the weight of their scrutiny, the evaluating gaze weighing the truth upon raw wounds of loss. More of the Alliance trying to sway us into yet another battle. A figure stepped forward, voice laced with disdain. What ensure you have, boy? We don't come offering death, he replied. We want to end the cycle of suffering the shadow hunters have thrust upon us. He leaned in slightly, an ember of hope igniting in his voice. Together, we stand a chance. You think because you mention unity that the past can be washed clean? The hatchet-faced figure twisted his lips, exhaling bitter laughter. Too many lies have been born from such promises before. Why should we trust you? The battles we've fought are stitched into our souls, Lorden pressed, summoning strength from the depths of his resolve, and the stories shared between us can counsel us through the ache. We've all lost, but we can choose to rise as defenders together. Words only echo in the night. Another rebel chimed in. What can you offer that has not been given before? With a sudden inspiration, Lorden leaned forward, channeling the weight of urgency and companionship that had flourished among the Alloy collectives. Hope, he said, his voice steady, eyes honing in on the crowd. We stand together alongside the guardians of Midrith Roman, awakened to reclaim our future. With unity, we are unbreakable. Besides, if you think hope is foolish, he added with a hint of mischief, then you have never faced a true shadow hunt and seen it flicker back into existence. His words hung in the air, resonating like a heartbeat. Around them, the rebel faction traded whispered exchanges, uncertainty amassing. As Lorden watched the firelight flickering across their collective faces, he felt the raw strength mingling with vulnerability, an ever-looming choice hanging in the balance. All right, the leader said finally, eyes narrowing but softened with begrudging respect. We'll listen to the tales you weave. But know this, he paused, a flicker of uncertain conviction illuminating his features. If you speak lies, we're skilled in dealing swift death. Lorden grinned wide, allowing relief to flow through him, as the rebels shifted uncomfortably, still wary but intrigued. Then let's share our tales. Together, we'll build the strength to reclaim our stories and extinguish that which haunts our every breath. As the darkness enveloped the landscape, two factions began weaving their histories together, feeding off the flickering flames that lit the night. A sense of resilience filling the air. Hash, the gathering storm back at our settlement beneath the towering rocks. Tales poured forth like a river between Jara and me. The stories of battles fought long before we manifested under the stars, reminders of resilience in the face of ruin. As our gathering whispered into the night, breathing life back into forgotten dreams, I could feel the energy rise, a palpable force swelling within our community. The inhabitants who had long stood idly by seemed to come alive with memories, sharing laughter and bitterness, healing slowly in the folds of connection. Thank you for extending your hearts, an elder said, voice quaking as they spoke. We may have faltered, but have not lost sight of what once thrived here among these stones. If we can truly reclaim the stories we've lost spirit among us as a collective, we may yet be destined to fight back. In unity, we beckon strength, I reiterated, feeling the thrums of energy rise around us. Together, we shall awaken the guardians and call forth a tide that even the shadows can't withstand. As murmurs of agreement echoed, weaving through the flickering fires, I caught sight of the dim horizon. The gathering storm clouds painted in twilight hues, reflecting the impending conflict. Each flicker of light represented the souls reborn through uncertainty, the embers of hope ignited against latent fears. The resolve hung heavy over us, shimmering like the stars above. I took a moment, soaking in the energy that danced upon the currents of the night. We had exchanged stories, forged bonds, and built a momentum that felt unstoppable. Suddenly, I realized this journey would not only define my own purpose, it would rekindle the essences of a people long forgotten. We would rise to reshape our fates, hand in hand, hearts interwoven in defiance as dawn broke upon us. The shadow hunters prowled close, yet I could feel their grasp loosen, waiting for dawn to unravel a time of awakening. And for it we would prepare. As our gathering crystallized in unity, I whispered to the stars twinkling high above, the darkness may lurk on the edges, but we shall not cower. We will resist. We will fight, because for every tale that ends in sorrow, a new beginning takes root. Flickering flames danced into the night, a symbol and beacon sparking across Midrith Roman 4. A gathering storm of hope simmering just on the edge of the dawn awaiting to unfold. Together, we could reclaim the stars, shaping our future into legends that no shadow could eclipse. And thus we trained against the tide, knowing the final confrontation loomed just beyond the horizon, waiting for our rhythm to forge its essence once more. Ultimately, this was only the beginning. The first light of dawn broke through the dense canopy of trees, casting a soft luminescence across our makeshift encampment, illuminating the faces of those who had gathered under the shelter of the ancient ruins. There was a stillness in the air, an unbroken silence burrowing deep into my bones, reminding me that the calm was merely a pause before the storm. Every heartbeat resonated with the collective anticipation that hung heavily around us. We would soon face the shadow hunters again. Resting in the heart of our gathering, I took in the determined expressions of my newfound allies from the Alloy Collective, the liberated inhabitants of this land, and the weary warriors who had lost so much to the rampaging darkness. We had become a patchwork quilt of experience and resolve, stitched together by the thread of shared suffering and a profound desire to reclaim our home. Gather around, I called, my voice breaking the fragile silence. Flickering flames of the fires danced as our diverse factions clustered closer, reinforcing our unity. Jara stood beside me, her eyes glinting with firelight, ready to inspire courage. "It is time," I said, addressing the collective. "But we must prepare not only for battle, but for something greater. Today, we rise as guardians of Midrith Roman, each of you necessary in this dance of survival. We will call upon the guardians, channel our strength, and weave our spirits together. We cannot falter. We must hold fast." As the words hung in the air, a murmur of agreement swept through the gathering, igniting the embers of determination flickering in every heart. Each warrior present carried the weight of pain from their past, yet in this moment they embraced the glimmer of camaraderie forming around us. "Today," Jara continued, raising her fists toward the soaring sky, "we stand together against the oncoming tide and announce that Midrith Roman, 4 is not to be so easily claimed. We will strike down the shadows, reclaim our home, and awaken its true essence." A thunderous cheer erupted from our ranks, reverberating through the valley. It was the sound of defiance, resonating against the darkening skies. The time to act had come. Hash hash, hash the call to arms we organized swiftly, each member taking on roles according to their strengths. Lorden had returned with news of the surrounding settlements, bringing hope along with hardened resolve into our heart. He had succeeded in forging an alliance with the rebels, intertwining our fates even further as he recounted their practices in guerrilla warfare. "The hunters may be skilled at inflicting fear," he stated, his intensity capturing the attention of those around me, "but we can outmaneuver them. We know this land, hidden paths, and where they are vulnerable. We will use the ancient ruins as a strategic advantage. The shadows cannot track us through spaces they do not know." The training began immediately, warriors honing their skills with energy, infused weapons tapping into the pulse of Midrith Roman 4. The guardians lingered overhead, silent witnesses weaving through the air, a constant reminder of the force we could channel, connecting us to the land and each other. As dusk approached, a tension tightened in the air, mirroring the tumult gathering in the distance. I stood beside Jara, each of us aware of the stakes. We would not merely be fighting for survival tonight. We would reclaim our essence against those who sought to erase us. Before us loomed the outskirts of the ancient ruins where the encampment lay heavily fortified by our combined energies. Vigilant eyes scouted the terrain, catching sight of shadows moving closer along the perimeter. They were here. "Hold steady," I whispered, feeling the pulse of the earth sinking with my heartbeat. "Embrace the spirits. Trust your instincts. We are guardians of this land now." Hash 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 the first clash as night fell. The arid air became charged with anticipation. The scent of damp earth mingled with tension, growing thicker as the shadows approached. Our perimeter was alight with energy, guardians swirling above us, turning into glimmers of hope that only fate could engrave against the night sky. "Here they come," yelled a watchman, and the atmosphere shifted suddenly. Agitated whispers roared into dynamic fervor as the first figures of the shadow hunters materialized into view, coalescing from the depths of the trees like phantoms. A dark wave crashing against a fragile barrier. And now, Jara shouted as our warriors rallied, depicting an unfaltering line just behind the protective wards of luminous power running along the perimeter. The hunters surged forward, a cacophony of growls and battle cries echoing off the stone walls. Braced against the onslaught, we unleashed our energies, lancing pulses of light into the encroaching darkness. I focused deeply, feeling the Guardians channel through me, a world lost and now reclaimed. "Push them back, hold the line," I screamed, charging forward alongside Lorden and Jara, swirling energies twisting around us, igniting fury in resplendent hues. The shadows collided with our defenses, tendrils reaching out, seeking to pull us into oblivion. But we countered with resolve, our energies intertwined, forming barriers that crackled against the darkness. The Guardians danced through the air, as if entwined with the breath of every heartbeat. I locked eyes with one of the shadow hunters, a figure draped in obsidian, its face obscured beneath war paint that depicted its ruthless nature. "You fight against the inevitable," it sneered. "All who stand against the shadows are wasted, mere dust. We are not prone to despair," I bellowed, feeling the pulse rhythmically charge through my veins. Each thought poured into resonating power, and I leaped forward, intent on taking back what had been stolen. Around me, Lorden and Jara followed suit, a trio of defiance, surging into the very heart of darkness. Hash hash, hash the turning tide with every thrust. The barriers we forged flickered, pulsing with tenacity, light streaking through the night like falling stars against the umbra. The tide felt fluid, we carved our path amidst the chaos, pushing against the shadows' advance. But then, from the corner of my eye, I saw them. A flank of shadows emerging from the tree line, encircling the periphery of our gathering as another wave surged through our defenses. They planned to trap us, wielding their darkest powers against the Guardians born of hope. "Form up," I screamed, rallying the fighters behind me, each soul channeling power through unyielding alliance. The Guardians in flight executed intricate patterns above, weaving energy and light down through our ranks. Yet, despite our surge, the encroaching darkness thickened. The hunters began to adapt. They weren't merely fierce individuals. They were tactical, cohesive, ever-changing. Jara, standing firm beside me amidst the turmoil, channeled her energies through the wind, lifting her voice above the battlefield. "Guardians, heed us now. We invoke your aid." With a resounding cry, the Guardians alighted, their forms gathering, crystallizing into radiant beams of light. Each pulse harmonized with our defense, weaving together like strands in a tapestry, reviving our strength, forcing the shadows to recoil momentarily. "We fight not only for ourselves, but also for those lost." I echoed, rage and courage intertwining. For everyone we had lost, fighting against the shadows was like reclaiming their memory from despair. In that moment of resurgence, we surged forward as a tide of rebellion. The hunters faltered, losing their grasp as vibrant beams of light cut through darkness like daggers. Pulses of energy surged beneath us, empowering each individual, erasing the grip of fear. Suddenly, the battle shifted, and the shadows began to retract. What had started as a wave soon cascaded into confusion, the physical forms flickering, evaporating with each hit against the grounded spirits of our defenders. "No!" The obsidian figure snarled, witnessing the tide of our unyielding resolve, and in its desperate maneuver it lashed out, sending tendrils toward Jara. "Jara!" I screamed, racing forward at the last moment, stretching out toward her before the tendril could strike. It struck me instead, seizing me in a vice, like grip. Pain jolted through me like a wildfire, threatening to engulf every positive thought. "Focus!" Lorden shouted, pulling back another shadow hunter, helping me to traverse toward Jara. I felt embers spark within me, flared by the urgency of my surroundings. With a fierce roar, I called on the Guardian's presence and shifted the pulse of energy through my very core, seeking to break free as they surged into the darkness. "A sacrifice is our greatest strength," I heard Jara pray, reverberating as I fought against the grip tightening around my throat. Break free. Mustering every ounce of strength within, I repurposed my energy into a brilliant burst of light, collapsing as it erupted outward, illuminated against the encroaching shadows. The tendril snapped, dissipating as the light surged through the air, reviving the very essence of what I had fought for. Hash hash hash, the final clash, the shadow army, taken aback by the sudden uproar of brilliance, found themselves on the back foot. "And now, push," I gasped, regaining my breath as we surged together toward the heart of the fray. Together we maneuvered through, a synchronized formation, cutting through the remaining shadows that threatened with electric pulses charged by the spirits of Midrith Roman 4. Lordan struck down the figure that taunted me, his blade gleaming with energy as he maneuvered deftly around it. "What was that you said?" he teased, the grin tearing through the chaos as he plunged the weapon deep into its form. "A foolish child. Looks more like you've met your match." In a synchronized effort, we rallied against the remaining figures, the guardians fighting alongside us, pushing back against the lingering shadows. We were relentless, weaving patterns of defiance, illuminating the darkness that had long oppressed us. With every blow struck, a footfall resisting the encroaching despair, we transformed into a force of nature, their collapse under our might, a testament to the guardians emerging from their obscurity. And then, as the last echoes of growls fell silent, we found ourselves standing, battered but alive, beneath a now clear sky. The air shimmered lightly as the guardians swirled overhead, illuminating the new dawn as if heralding our triumph. The shadows had retreated, vanquished deeper into the recesses of Midrith Roman 4, but we knew they would not be gone forever. As I looked upon my allies, the warriors who had transformed into defenders of this sacred land, I felt a renewed sense of purpose ignite among us. "We are guardians not only of each other but of this world," I proclaimed, breathing deeply as I met their gazes with fierce defiance. "The shadows may have hidden among us for years, but now they know we stand united. We will rebuild what has been lost, reclaim our stories, and defend those who reside here." Together, we raised our voices into the vast expanse of the dawn, intertwining our essences. A sense of unbroken unity stemming from battles won and losses endured. Each guardian above echoed our battle cry, shimmering against the backdrop of a new beginning. We had forged a bond strengthened not just by the task at hand, but by the memories of everyone lost in the fight against darkness. A cycle would continue, but when the shadows returned, for they surely would, we would stand resolute. Whatever lay beyond the horizon, we were ready for it, a force reborn, crafted through fire and tenacity, claiming our place in the tapestry of existence etched into the heart of Midrith Roman 4. And as guardians, we were ready to face the storms ahead, knowing that our voices would forge the path towards an unwavering dawn. Let the shadows come, we would be waiting and prepared to defend that which we held dear. The story of our unity had just begun. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the first light of day illuminated the battle. Weary faces of those gathered beneath the towering ruins of Midrith Roman 4. The aftermath of the conflict lingered in the air, a symphony of energies swirling around us, resonating with the harmonized pulse of both the living and the ethereal guardians. Despite the exhilaration of our victory over the Shadow Hunters, a keen awareness of the trials still ahead hung like a weight in my chest, mingling with an unexpected sense of hope. "Gather around," I called out, my voice steadying the fluid dynamics of energy in the space around us. As warriors began to cluster closer, the flickering embers from last night's fires still danced among the scattered remnants of the battle, reflecting the steadfast spirit that now infused our ranks. Jara stood beside me, her blue tattoos glimmering in the rejuvenating light, the bond between us forged deeper through shared victories and losses. "We've suffered great pains," I began, looking into the eyes of each assembled warrior. "Yet today, we have reclaimed our fate. Together, we have faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious against the darkness that sought to swallow our existence. But our journey is not yet complete. The Shadow Hunters may have retreated, but they lurk on the edges, waiting for a moment of weakness." "An inevitable return," Lordan interjected, tension tightening his features as he surveyed the camp. "But now we possess the strength to confront them head on." The murmurs of agreement rippled through our ranks. Every warrior exchanged glances, knowing the weight of what loomed before us. "Settlements around this region are still vulnerable," Jara said, stepping forward, her voice tinged with determination. "We must rally our allies, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and prepare for the storm that will inevitably return. We have awakened the spirit of resistance in these lands, but we must now solidify that spirit into a coalition. But how? A young warrior broke in, the flicker of fear evident on his face. The hunters have always managed to outmaneuver us at every turn. What if they come for us again? I reached deep within myself, feeling the pulse of the guardian energies that flowed through this land, drawing strength from the collective heritage we had breathed back into existence. We create a refuge, I said, my heart bolstered by the fire of resolve that glowed within me. We set traps, prepare defenses, establish alliances with every survivor who has been affected by the shadow hunters. They must come to know that together we are a force that cannot be extinguished. Jara nodded, her presence steady amidst the growing determination. A strong network of sentinels and scouts, we will learn to anticipate their movements, never allowing them the opportunity to strike first. The warriors nodded, echoes of solidarity filling the air. The horizon shimmered with flickering hues of dawn, a promise of the rebuilding that lay ahead. Let's divide our efforts, I suggested, feeling the momentum of unity bolster our spirits. We can send teams to the nearest settlements to recruit others to our cause, while others fortify our defenses around this very spot. If we flourish here, if we create a refuge for those who have suffered, we can establish a beacon of hope that will resonate throughout Midrith Roman. 4. With chants of agreement erupting around me, the assembled warriors split into dedicated teams, scattering into the surrounding landscape like vibrant leaves caught in a whirlwind. In the wake of their calls, I felt the guardians become more present. Their energy danced above us, echoing the collective intensity of our shared purpose. Unity in chaos days passed swiftly as our community grew. Settlements that had once cowered beneath the oppressive shadows now emerged and embraced newfound strength. The skies above echoed with the sounds of laughter and celebrations, a harmonic blend of camaraderie and resilience that had seeped into the very soil we stood upon. News of our victories traveled far and wide, with whispers of our unity invigorating the hearts of others. Lorden had returned from a recruiting mission, striding through the camp with the fire of determination still blazing in his eyes. We've united with several neighboring factions, the old guard soldiers and their allies, he announced, and excitement rippled through the gathering. The hunters have drained families of their spirits for too long. They are eager to rise up with us. An older warrior stepped forward, a fighter reinforced with scars and the weight of lost kin. If we can call upon the scattered warriors of this land, then we may possess arms capable of turning the tide. We must not let fear rule our hearts. Hope has returned to our sanctuary. With each passing day, we fortified our defenses. The echoes of encouragement reverberating through the ruins served as a reminder that our collective strength lay not only in combat, but in the interconnected weave of our stories. Sanctuary neared completion, walls brimming with the essence of not just survival but preparation. A promise to endure. The final prelude as the winds shifted on the eve of what we knew would be the Shadow Hunter's swift return. The tension in the air coalesced into a palpable vibration, sending ripples through the camp. The guardians hovered above, radiant and watchful, their essence merging seamlessly with our strength, whispering the ancient songs of resilience. That night, under a canopy of stars now illuminated by the spirits of ancient times, we gathered together one last time to unite our energies and prepare for the confrontation that loomed before us. The previous days' victories and hopes were woven into our collective tale, stitching together our weaknesses into a shield of community. Tonight, we embrace the path forged through adversity, I said, standing before the warriors in attendance, their faces glimmering with ethereal light. Tomorrow, we shall face the Shadow Hunters not just as defenders, but as a united front empowered by our shared experiences. Hushed murmurs enveloped the air before erupting into cheers of solidarity, voices merging with the night, spirits intertwining, unseen forces coalescing with our essence, a friendship forged by heart and will. As the embers of the bonfire danced into the stars, I felt that the upcoming storm was not merely a battle against darkness but a testament, a demonstration that together we were stewards of hope, custodians of a future we could shape. Clash of shadows. Dawn broke suddenly, flooding the horizon with brilliant bursts of gold and red. I could hardly contain the pulse of anticipation that thrummed in my chest as warriors readied themselves, standing shoulder to shoulder, a vibrant tapestry of colors against the backdrop of the terrain before us. Our sentinels were positioned along key vantage points, attuned watchers keeping an eye out for the telltale signs of encroaching danger. The shore of the horizon shifted like liquid ink as figures emerged, silhouetted against the sun's advance, shadows flitting toward us, dark and restless, with the unmistakable figures of the shadow hunters coalescing into shapes that echoed our fears. Energy crackled, coursing through the air, a reminder of the fight to come. Lorden took his place beside me, poised to meet the oncoming tide. "This is it," he said, his voice low yet steady. "We will not recede, we will not falter. Let us embrace our purpose," I proclaimed, heart racing, stoking the energy that blended into my very essence. For Midrith Roman 4, for those lost, for a world reborn, we reclaim what belongs to us. At the forefront, Jara stood tall, her hands raised as the guardians shimmered around us. A mosaic of glowing spirits, each whispering echoes of strength into the collective. "Together, we are unbreakable," she shouted, igniting pride in her fellow warriors, their fists raised to the sky. And as we stood among the ruins, our fortress pulsing with vibrancy, radiant symbols of hope, ready for whatever darkness approached, we prepared to take the final plunge. As the shadows surged forward, we responded, not with sheer will alone, but with the inarguable truth that we were guardians of broken spirits rising. The aftermath. The clash erupted, energy bursts illuminating the landscape, mirroring the chaos and struggle unfolding around us. The familiar battle cries mingled with our determined shouts, marking the air as we fought back against the tide of darkness that threatened to reclaim our reality. The guardians surged among us, their light illuminating every corner, reminding us that we were never truly alone. The dark figures pressed onward, threatening to engulf us, but we remained resolute, weaving a protective barrier infused with hope into every movement. Where there was fear, we found courage. Where there was despair, we spread resilience. Every strike against the shadows reverberated with purpose, the energy building as we coalesced into a force unlike any they had faced before. Yet, shadows still persisted. I felt their touch, the pull of darkness seeking to consume us once more. "Push back," Lorden roared, rallying the warriors behind me as we pressed forward, channeling our energy like an unyielding river, each drop a memory stitched into our shared resolve. With every spirit present, every guardian lending power, we turned the tide of the battle. The commanding shadows began to falter, flickering like dying embers as radiant tension surrounded us, swirling amid everything we fought to reclaim. But then, as we flooded between the gaps emerging within their ranks, the obsidian figure that had elicited my fear loomed again, its eyes glimmering with menace. "You think you have triumphed," it hissed, tension winding through the air. "You know not the true power of the shadows." The energy pulse around me faltered for a split second, washed in doubt, but as I locked eyes with Lorden and Jara, the fire reignited. "We are guardians," I declared, feeling the strength of every warrior at my back. We reclaim this narrative. This world is no longer rife with shadows. And with a resounding cry, we surged forward again, coupled with the essence of everything we had built. The lives lost woven into the tenderness of every connection. We were no longer bound by fear. We were the hope that sparkled in the darkness. A light reborn with one final strike. We pushed past the encroaching shadows as the guardians erupted into a radiant light, weaving their essence around us. Cascading over the entire battlefield like a crashing wave, the radiant energy engulfed the silhouettes one last time. The cacophony of battle shilled into silence, and the shadows disintegrated into wisps of smoke, dissipating into the very breath of Midrith Roman 4, A moment of disbelief washed over me, and for a flickering heartbeat, time stood still. We had prevailed against the darkness. Our hearts surged with triumph. We were together again, united within our shared purpose. As the sun broke free from the horizon, the vibrant hues transformed the landscape, bathing us in light. The air felt different, charged with the essence of rebirth. I had felt the fragility of despair, but now it was a distant memory, transformed into a collective strength. "I didn't think we had it in us," Lorden remarked, breathless, staring at the remains of the battlefield, the remaining warriors slowly emerging from behind the protective walls. "We awakened the guardians within us," I replied, my heart racing with excitement. Together, we found not just a chance to survive, but to reclaim our stories, spread hope, and assure that darkness can never take hold of this place again. As we stood amidst the remnants of the shadows that had tried to consume us, I felt every heartbeat merge, a beautiful tapestry of energy resonating through the community of Midrith Roman. 4. Our stories, woven together, created a legacy that echoed beyond the edges of our perception. The journey continues. The wind swept through the landscape, carrying the stories of those long lost, and we gathered around one another, holding on to the warmth that surrounded us. "We must begin anew," I proclaimed. "This victory is but a chapter in our story. Let us forge a future built upon the bonds we have created, and the forgotten spirits that will be honored through every effort." Jara stepped forward, her gaze fierce and determined. "Together, we'll rebuild our villages, restitching the fabric of our lands. No one will go unattended, and we shall create sanctuaries stronger than the shadows that dared to tread upon us." Gradually, as whispers of agreement danced around us, we understood our purpose would become clearer with time. The guardians now stood solid alongside us, protecting our endeavors as we looked ahead. The consciousness of this land echoed the restorative energy surging from every heart. As we ventured from the remnants of the battlefield, side by side, warriors reborn into defenders, we set forth into uncharted territory, confident in our unity, ready to weave a new narrative for Midrith Roman. 4. The promise of a brighter tomorrow awaited us. With intertwined hands and spirits aflame with hope, we stepped into the dawn of a new era. A world no longer eclipsed by shadows, but illuminated by the resilience of hearts that refused to yield. We were the guardians, reborn as protectors of everything we cherished, shaped not merely by the darkness, but by the light that sparked within. A journey of unity into a boundless future.